व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। So in the third chapter, having explained the whole concept of yajna and how one can act in line with the very pulse of the universe, which is selflessness, which is the spirit of giving, the Lord moves on and explains that a person who has followed this concept of yajna, how that person achieves fulfillment. And a very nice shloka is shloka number 17, where he says, Yastvatmaratirev syad atmatriptascha manavaha atmanyeva cha santushtaha tasya karyam na vidyate. So he says that a person who has done this karma yoga, purified the mind, will discover the supreme truth within one's own heart and reach the state of fulfillment. So that supreme reality which one is seeking, actually in the earlier shloka they have explained Nityam Yajne Pratishtitam Tasmat Sarvagatam Brahma Nityam Yajne Pratishtitam, that supreme Brahman which is all pervasive is present as the very heart of this whole yajna. And a person who lives in that spirit of selflessness, of purity, of giving, will discover that Brahman through action itself. One doesn't have to go anywhere else separately. So having attained that state, he says here, yes, to Atmaratireva syat. That person is experiencing rati in one's own self. Rati means enjoyment actually. Generally it will be in sense objects. So we seek rati in the sense objects. And rati also is the wife of Kamdev. So rati symbolizes sense enjoyments. So one who finds the happiness not in sense enjoyments but in one's own self, Atmarati, then yastu Atmaratireva syat Atma triptascha manavaha. Tripti also one finds within oneself only. That is the emotional satisfaction of when a desire is fulfilled. And Atmani eva cha santushtaha. And there is santosh also in one's own self. That is when a particular situation I want has happened. So one is sense enjoyments, other is emotional satisfaction when I meet people whom I love and I interact with them. Third is the success, achievement which gives success, which comes through the situations. So generally we seek happiness in these three. Here is a person who attains all the three within one's own self. Atmarati, Atmatripti, Atmasantushti. This shloka actually is the goal of human life. The goal of human life is to seek this, where the mind can find delight not in the sense enjoyments, that pleasure is there, but there is no craving for that. So mind finds that enjoyment in one's own self, Atma Rati. Only a person who has done that karma yoga, purified the mind, will be able to experience that. Otherwise, sense temptations are too powerful and they keep on drawing the mind outside. But one who has tasted the joy within, the bliss within, knows that actually sense enjoyments are also coming from the self within only. The pleasure may be coming from outside, but the happiness comes from the self only. So if you think about it, where is the source of happiness? Suppose there is a nice rasgulla. Happiness is in rasgulla. Is it in the tongue tasting the rasgulla? Is it that the contact has to happen in an appropriate manner? Suppose I have fever and I have no taste, and then I eat rasgulla. I can't even enjoy it because the tongue is not in appropriate condition. So where is that happiness actually? Whether in the rasgulla, whether it is in the tongue, whether it is in the contact of the rasgulla with the tongue, and that contact also must be appropriate. So if one actually analyzes where it is, or is it in the mind? Because there are some people who have that famous, they keep quoting that line again, it's all in the mind, it's all in the mind. But then why are you seeking the rasgulla outside if it's all in the mind? So where is it? Is it in the mind? Is it in the contact of the senses with the sense object? Is it in the senses? Is it in the object? Where is that happiness? You see, the analysis that the rishis have done is fabulous. That is, none of these have that happiness. They have their own sense enjoyment, has some sense pleasure, and the mind has some satisfaction, all that, but that lasts for a very short time. Happiness comes only when the agitation of the mind stops. It is already my nature, actually. Anand is my nature already. It's like a blanket which is covering, let us say there is a night lamp, and there is a blanket which has covered it, thick blanket. So then that light below it is not seen. The moment that blanket is removed, one sees that light. Same way, happiness is our nature and desire veils it. So the third part, the last portion of the third chapter will explain to us this aspect of how desire veils. So it is not in the sense objects, it is not in the senses, it is not in the appropriate contact of the senses with the sense object, it is not even in the mind and thoughts. But it is the nature of the Atma, Atma Rati. And that Atma's nature, which is Anand, manifests in a very small way, in a conditioned way, through the sense pleasure. It is like eating the chocolate with the wrapper and thinking that wrapper brings the sweetness. The wrapper doesn't bring any sweetness. However attractive the wrapping may be and the packaging may be, the sweetness comes from inside. Same way, that's why it says Atma Rati. One who delights in the sense, delights in the self. So even while one is enjoying something, the mind may even appreciate that this is a very nice rasgulla. But one knows that the Anand is coming only from the self. It is not coming from there. What is the need to know that? All our dependencies on objects, people, situations will end. Only when I know that actually it is my own bliss that I am experiencing, but through the object. How can you say that it is not there in this? It is not there because if it was there, The sense object would have satisfied us completely, but it doesn't satisfy. So only when the mind becomes quiet do we experience. And mind can become quiet even in the absence of sense objects. As we see in the state of meditation, or we see in the state of love, where the mind becomes very silent. There is a lot of joy that one experiences. But again, being conditioned by the mind, the fluctuations of the mind, again it goes away, either some emotion or some memory or some desire arises. Hence the need to transcend the mind. And through Karma Yoga, slowly, that person has purified the mind to transcend it. And having transcended, this is the state, that Atmarati. All enjoyments one finds in the self. All that joy which emotions can give, Atma Tripti, that also one finds in the self. And all the situational experiences of success, achievement, etc., they all also are experienced by the person in the self only. So externally the person may seek something, may even work, may even have some achievements, but knows very clearly that all this is reflected bliss of my own self. So the interesting part of this shloka finally is Tasya karyam na vidyate. For such a person, there is no duty, there is nothing to be done. Having followed the duty, earlier it was said niyatam kuru karmatvam. You must do your obligatory duties. You see, from there, if through discipline, through performance of the duty, steadfastness in the duty, selflessness, when all that happens, person comes to the state where one goes beyond duty. So duties also end. Why? Because duties are a means for us to achieve this state of fulfillment. We don't have duties eternally. According to the stage of life, according to the temperament, the duties will change. Many people don't drop those duties or transcend them rather and ignore the duty towards their own self. So if I am a grahasthi, I have a household, I have to take care, I have a family, I have a profession, all that, I have a duty. But till when? Not till I die. Till they are independent, till they can take care of themselves, until my vasana pressure is handled well. But after that, one has to start withdrawing, turn within. No, but my children, what will happen to them? That their karma and prarabdha will take care of it. We need to turn, because what will happen to me, that is important. Why again come back? So having got the human birth, work very hard. So this shloka is the very goal and shows to us that a person through the performance of the duty can rise above all duties, go beyond all pairs of opposites, experience that state of supreme peace and permanent happiness. One doesn't have to go anywhere else. Staying where one is, one can attain that. So he gives one example in this 20th verse, where he says that a very famous example that all of us know about Janak Maharaj. So he says that karmanaiva hi samsiddhim asthita janakadaya. Through karma itself, these great people, example is Janaka, who was the king of Mithila. Through karma he realized the truth. Meaning, not by action he realized the truth, but by following the path of karma and working selflessly, the person did not have to go away abandoning all these duties. Realized, asthita janakadaya. And after they realize the truth, then why do they act? If they have fulfilled themselves and they don't have any more duties, attain the state of supreme peace and happiness. Now what is the motive to act? Till now the motive to act was, I must attain that peace, I must attain happiness, I must be fulfilled. Now what is the motive to act? Because everything that has to be attained is attained. Atmarati, Atmatripti, Atmasantushti, all attained. And don't think these are three. Don't say that मेरे को पहले आत्मरति attain करना पड़ेगा. उसके बाद I am attempting Atma Tripti and later we will see Atma Santushti. When you realize the Atma, all the three come together. So we have to only know the Atma first. The reason why these three are given is because we understand these three. Rati is through the senses, Tripti is through the mind, Santushti is through the buddhi. And because of these we have forgotten the Atma. It says don't miss out on that which is the real essence. So when I realize the Atma, all the three come together. Then why should I act? They don't have any other motive to act because they have fulfilled themselves. So Bhagavan says here, Loka Sangraham eva api sampashyam kartum arhasi. Looking at the welfare of the people around. These great masters, they act. And so Bhagavan tells Arjun, you also should act, Arjun. If people like Janak Maharaj who have attained that supreme state while living, while performing their duties as a king, then what to talk about you? You have not even reached that state. So you must act. And if you don't want to act for your own personal reason, act keeping the benefit of the people around in mind. That they will benefit. That society will have dharma. And that is a very important aspect as a Kshatriya, that is your duty. So Maharaj Janak's example again is given to us so that these wrong notions about spirituality go away from the mind. There are some people who quote this to their advantage also. Those who don't want to either renounce personally, or if the children are wanting to walk the path and study Vedanta full time, they will say, no, stay at home. Janak Maharaj also stayed and he realized. This is not to misquote this and take it for one's own advantage. The idea is that if I have those tendencies and the Lord has placed me in the right place, I must continue to do the work with the spirit of yajna, with the spirit of dedication, sacrifice, giving. Wherever I am, there itself I can realize the absolute truth. I don't have to go away somewhere else. Because this is the trick that the mind plays. Always. And that is one of the reasons why we are in bondage is this. That happiness is not here and now, happiness is somewhere else. So now vacation will come in December. Everybody will fly out, seeking happiness somewhere in the world. Somebody will go to Turkey, somebody will go to Thailand, somebody will go to Lonavala, somebody will go to Lavasa. मुंबई में कहाँ शांति है स्वामी जी? कितनी अशांति? हम कहीं और जाएं. I mean, nothing wrong going wherever one goes, but remember Atma Sripti, Atma Rati, Atma Santushti. Keeping that in mind, go wherever. But if one thinks that happiness is there, when you go there, then the mind will say, "No, Mumbai बहुत अच्छा है. I'm missing my home. There's nothing like home, you know." Mind will play that trick always. It's not about only places; it's about people also. One craves to be with somebody, and then when one is with that person, after some time, mind thinks, "Abhi, that person." Now this person. That's why we are in bondage. So be here and now is what Vedanta tells us. And Janak Maharaj did that. But remember, his vairagya was tremendous. This shloka also is a very important reminder to us that if we are living in the world and trying to realize the absolute truth, it will not happen by itself. One has to constantly do satsang, constantly be in touch with the scripture and align one's life appropriately. Because the temptations of the world are very powerful. The mind will just get pulled. And one will not even know when the fall happens. So quick is the fall. So constantly one has to do satsang. Janak Maharaj was so deep in his vivek and vairagya. Constantly. And if you read the Ashtavakra Gita, conversation between Janak Maharaj and his Guru Ashtavakra is tremendous. Highest form of knowledge is given there. The beginning of Ashtavakra itself is this, where Janak Maharaj asks the question that what is Gyan, what is Vairagya, what is Moksha, and the answer, the first line in the answer that Ashtavakra Muni gives him is Mukti Michchasi Chet Tata Vishayan Vishavatyaja. That if you want Mukti, you abandon the sense objects like poison. Janak Maharaj, staying in the kingdom, is living with this passion. So that has to be done. Otherwise it is not that, okay, I am going to live in the way I want to live. Yesterday we saw sense management and all that is not there. This is not possible. So even if I am living at the household level, I must ensure that there is sense control, there is discipline, there is some time I give out for satsang. All that is very, very crucial. Then this will happen. And Bhagavan gives that assurance that will happen, don't worry. Now he comes to the leadership aspect and he tells Arjun that Arjun, as the great people in the world act, so others will follow. So you are a leader. He makes him aware of that. In this third chapter we see many reasons he gives that why Arjun should fight. So earlier he spoke about the whole concept of yajna and how action can liberate you when it is performed with the right attitude. So don't think of this as bondage. Then he spoke about how it can lead to the state of fulfillment. Then he spoke about, he gave the example. Now he gives this verse that even from leadership standpoint, you must act. It's a very famous verse, let us read. Yadyadacharati shreshthah tattadevetaro janah sayat pramanam kurute lokastadanu vartate. So he says yadyad acharati shreshthah, as the great people act, shreshta, tattadeva itaro janaha, the rest of the people will just follow that. Sayat pramanam kurute, the standard which these people set, lokaha tadanu vartate, the people of the world will just follow that. One may say this is about some great people, some people who are leaders. Because the concept in our mind always is the leaders are selected few. We are happy to follow. I am not a leader, Swami. I don't have to lead any team. But the word Shrestha is nice one. They didn't use the word Neta. Neta in Hindi means politician, but in Sanskrit it means the leader. One who leads, Nayati, is a Neta. So here the idea is that everybody is a Shrestha Purusha. Each one of us is a Shrestha. There is somebody or the other looking up to us. Either it is our children or siblings or community or the team members. There is somebody or the other looking up to us. And what we do, how we live makes a big difference because they just absorb. So he says, Yadyad acharati Shrestha. Not only that each one of us is Shrestha, because we are Shrestha, it is our responsibility to live in a Shrestha way. That our conduct should be such that the person is, people around us are inspired and they feel that this is the way to live. I would like to live in this way. It should not happen the other way. Where looking at the person, one feels that, okay, what a disgustful way to live. I don't want to live like this. So Shrestha, Yadyad acharati Shrestha. This in leadership we call leadership by example. That one has to lead by example, not by talk. So they keep saying, walk your talk. And which is a fact. When we do parenting seminars and all that, before any tip of parenting is given, the first and the last tip of parenting actually is the children will just imitate what you do, us. Including mannerisms, including vocabulary, attitudes, everything. Small children, sometimes you find them, you hear them, how they talk. I hate you. From where did they learn? What is that? I hate you. So looking at some elders or parents, they found even positives that they will absorb either ways. So leadership by example. Everywhere this will apply. So as the great men act, and that's why the responsibility of great people, meaning each one of us, is to set great standards. Sayat pramanam kurute. What is the standard that we set? The bar must be so high that it constantly motivates us to manifest our potential. Not something which is mediocre and low, below average. Unfortunately, in our country, this mindset has been created by hundreds and thousands of years of domination and foreign rule. So many people have come, attacked us, dominated us. So we have somehow cultivated a followership mindset. That somebody will come someday, they will change everything, we will follow them. Initiative. One of the qualities of a leader is to take initiative. And what initiative do I take? Do I have a vision which is high? And do I initiate programs and ways and means to achieve that vision and keep my team motivated, keep them inspired to achieve that vision? What is the initiative that I take to keep the team together? Team building itself is a big thing. Individually we are brilliant, but as a team, collective failure. Whereas the concept of yajna is exactly ulta. And when people come together, they sink their differences for a common cause. That is teamwork. And that will happen only when the leader sets that example. Unfortunately, leadership becomes egoistic position, which is the exact opposite of what a leader should be. So in management, they have also now a whole new term which is called as servant leadership. And Hanumanji and Bharat are examples of servant leadership. Not Dasa Bhakti, servant leadership. They served the cause in such a way that they were not important, but the cause is more important. And because of that, all the people around them were able to identify with them because they don't have the ego that I am this and I am working for this cause and I achieved this. And I mean, if you just think of the achievements of Hanumanji, he could have easily arrogated to himself. Because what he did, nobody could even imagine, forget doing it. Going across the ocean, finding Mother Sita, destroying the morale of Ravana and his army by burning the Lanka there, inspiring Vibhishan to come and surrender, and then he comes back here, and not a moment he says that, I did it, not these monkeys. Right? Sanjeevani mountain he was in wings. All that great achievements that he does, nowhere that ego comes. Why? Because he is serving the cause of Lord Ram, and that cause is more important and he has lost himself in that. It's called servant leadership. Such people are loved by others. Why? Because not only they set high standards, but they are humble and they can connect with individuals. They are not flying somewhere up there and the people in the team are wondering that he doesn't even know what we are going through. He is in touch with each of them. Same way Bharat, example of servant leader. And today in management language they say humility is the X factor of leadership. The highest level of leader is the level number 5, where humility is the X factor of leadership. And that humility and great achievements go together in the leader. That is the example he sets. So Sayat Pramanam Kurute. Bhagwan will give his own example also as we go ahead. And what are the standards that we set? So one aspect of a leader is what are the standards that the leader sets. Second, how humble is the leader. Third, how connected is the leader to all the team members, and what is the example that the leader is living. Fourth, is the leader inspired by the vision and is able to inspire others with that vision. If there is a conflict between two people, a good leader, instead of trying to solve the conflict, will again direct the attention to the vision, that this is our vision, why are you fighting for this? It's not about you, it's not about him, nor it's about me, it's about the cause, it's about the vision. So, Sayat Pramanam Kurute. A leader must take initiative. A leader must be able to envision things further. And India needs more and more and more leaders, enough of followers. Another quality of a leader is he is a very good follower. There is no doubt in that. In fact, Vivekananda said that the best leader is the one who is the best follower. So only one can follow, that person can be the leader. So initiative must be taken, standards must be set high, not mediocrity. Today we have settled to mediocrity quite a lot. And that's become normal. And that's why one gets frustrated that even after paying, we don't get quality sometimes. So mediocrity should not be there, because mediocrity, when it is there, that means the cause is not important, selfishness is important. Mediocrity, when it is there, I am more indulgent and sense oriented. I am not vision oriented. So I have to understand that fact very clearly. That it is not that we set quality for the sake of my company is the best company because we give the quality. It is because that is what should be. That is the best that I can give. And I am working below my potential when I give mediocre performance. And the beauty of this is that the more I give out my best, the more best comes out. So the bar keeps rising. And the mediocrity level is such that I will settle with that. So the best in me will not come out. So it may appear that I have managed to be successful or I am having the standard of life that I want with that mediocrity, but the true potential did not come out only. That's why someone said that natural resources get depleted when you keep using them, but human resources can keep getting depleted when we don't use them. How much potential is there in each one of us that doesn't come out? Because the level is not high. And you just think about it. In speaking, what is the level of speech? In thinking, what do I want to achieve? In the purpose of life, what do I want to achieve? Where do we want the country to be? In all these different things about nature, about pollution, so many things we see, there's a lot of compromise and mediocrity. So he says, Sayat Pramanam Kurute. Those who set, these are the people who set high standards. In fact, he doesn't say they have set high standards. He says that whatever standards he sets, the people will just follow. So a leader has a great responsibility. More than the achievement of his team and the targets, the leader's example is bearing on all the team members, their life, their thought, their characteristics, how they live, how they interact. So as a parent, I have a big responsibility. As a team leader, I have a big responsibility. As someone who is leading the country, I have a big responsibility. So that leadership comes. He says that you are a leader. Society is looking up to you, and if you escape from this now, good quality of a leader is when there is the toughest of challenges, the leader will face it first. Not that the coward who is there will push everybody and then if required then only I will go. He lead from the front, that's why we say. Go there, face the challenge. And when the public applause comes, there take a back seat. There push the team ahead. That is Yajna spirit. So many aspects of leadership that way one can think about. But important aspect is that one must know that I am a leader and what I do influences the society around. So generally one thinks that if the society changes, the individual will be happy. But it's the other way. If each individual is empowered, the whole society is empowered. And leadership is about that empowerment. Leadership is not getting dominated. That's where creativity, innovation, all that comes into play. So now he gives his own example. He says that I don't have to achieve anything, O Partha. Because he is the Lord. And yet he says that Name Parthasti Kartavyam Trishu Lokeshu Kinchana. There is nothing that I have to achieve in all the three words. Yet, Na Nanavaptam Avaptavyam. There is nothing which is not achieved by me which I will get when I live like this as the Lord, as Krishna. Varta evacha karmani. Yet I am acting. And he says why he should act? Because if he doesn't act, this whole world will be in chaos. Why it will be in chaos? Because people cannot live at that level where Bhagavan is, where absolute non-doership is there and so much of action is happening. They will slip into tamas. So they have to see a dynamic example. Then only they will be able to do their duties in the spirit of Karma Yoga. What happened to our culture and to spirituality in our land is this only. That so many people in the name of spirituality said, we are spiritual, we will not do anything, we will sit quietly only. Some of them were capable of sitting quietly and people were inspired by them also. But some of them were not capable. They set such wrong examples. And following them, society also became dull and inactive, passive. So he says that if I don't act, yadi yaham navarteyam jatu karmani atandrita. If I don't act dynamically and I give into tandra, tandra means sleep, laziness, lethargy. So if I do that, then all the people will just follow that. They will just say that if Bhagavan is doing this, why should I act? So he says all the worlds will collapse. Utsidev rime lokaha. Na kuryat karma chedaham. If I don't do action. He is not acting out of compulsion, but this is the love and this is spontaneous action that flows from Bhagavan. That if Bhagavan says that I am a leader and I have to follow the high standards and I must set that example for people. Why he says that? Because if Bhagavan is not going to set that, then the whole world will collapse. So as a leader, Bhagavan also operates, not just as Bhagavan, but he says, even I am a leader, people look up to me and I have to work. In fact, if you see in that war, there are two people only who have no motive. One is Vidur. Vidur was not in the war actually. Another is Krishna Bhagavan. He doesn't have anything to gain out of it. You may say, no, but he came, Dharma Samsthapanarthaya. But that is not for his glory. That's for the happiness of people around. That if they live in Dharma, they will be happy. So nothing to gain and yet highest level of action. That's the quality of supreme leader. Only that person will be able to identify with the vision and work completely selflessly and give whatever it takes to do that. Bhagavan could become a charioteer, just imagine that. No ego issues. That I am the Lord of the universe and you have made me a charioteer after all. There is no better work for me to do. And as a charioteer, what a role he played. So when I have nothing to gain, that is the level of highest productivity. That's what Vedanta teaches us. That empty yourself of everything and see the inspiration that flows after that. divine inspiration flows. In management, the mantra is exactly ulta. More and more I want, so more and more I have to produce. So the higher the results I attain, the better is my benefit. More perks, more salary, more promotion, whatever it is. Which is at one level required also, nobody says no. But the next level after that is this, the level where doership reduces and becomes zero. You just think about it, we do this much work and fret this much. And Bhagavan does all this and he is silent, quietly doing this. In every temple you will see Bhagavan is smiling and sitting. And we go and pour out our misery and sorrow all at him, and he just smiles. One of the reasons why he smiles is he thinks, अरे करता तो मैं हूँ और स्ट्रेस तुमको हो रहा है. So you should sign a contract with Bhagavan that I will work and you worry. Right now it is ulta. I am worrying in spite of him working. Silent mind produces maximum innovative thoughts, creative ideas, great achievements, and yet will be stress-free, very peaceful, very happy. Why? Because no ego pressure. So fulfilled in oneself. Atmarati and Atmatripti, Atmasantushti is the highest level of fulfillment. Suppose we can't come to that, at least find the joy in the work itself, not in the result. Not in the praise of people when I achieve the result. From all that, when the mind is withdrawn and the work itself becomes my joy. Bas. So these are signs of good leaders. And Bhagavan gives this example that such people who live in this way, they set such good examples for people around. And Bhagavan reminds Arjun that, oh Arjun, you are one such leader, so do not think that by running away, it is your personal choice and that you can decide to go away because you want to go away. Your choice is linked with the whole society. What you do will impact the whole society, and you as a leader, when you run away, how many more people will feel demoralized, absolutely dejected, and what all they will end up doing? So you are not setting good standards. Now he says, what is the secret of action? We go to verse number 30. One of the very famous verses. The concept is known to many of us, but we don't know that this shloka is what in the Gita brings this. Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma cetasa Nirashir nirmamo bhutva Yudhyasva vigatajvaraha. So Bhagavan says, what is the secret of right action? Secret of success and fulfillment. 4 things he gives. He says, Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma cetasa. You renounce, you dedicate all the actions unto me with a spiritual vision. Adhyatma cetasa. Number 1. Number 2, nirashihi, give up anxiety for future. Nirmama, give up regret of the past. Vigatajvaraha, give up the tension in the present. Yudhyasva. With these 4 in mind, you act. The key to success is this shloka. But before the 3, regret, anxiety and tension are given up. The way to give up that is the first line actually, which many people don't follow. We remember these 3. Past, present, future, give up the regret, give up anxiety, give up tension. But how? First shloka, first line. Sarvani karmani adhyatma cetasa sanyasya. all actions dedicate to the Lord, or in this case to a higher cause if you like. You renounce pettiness. And with a spiritual vision in the heart, you dedicate actions to the higher purpose or to Bhagwan. Then the rest of the three will happen automatically. The sense of surrender and dedication will bring the rest of the three. Our difficulty is we are not able to surrender. So as long as ahankar is there, these three will thrive. Regret of the past, anxiety for the future, tension in the present will remain as long as ego is there. In fact, in the earlier shloka, one of the shlokas, he says that ahankara vimodhatma karta hamiti manyate. A deluded person, ahankara vimodhatma, deluded by one's own ego, thinks that he is the doer, and the moment he thinks that he is the doer, all these three will come. So he says, no, don't do like that. Then how do I act? Know that this is the play of the gunas. Either do it that way. That three gunas are interacting with each other, you are only a sakshi. That is a little difficult to do. Then what to do? This one is easier. Sarvani karmani sanyasya. Give up the sense of doership and insistence that I am the doer. Dedicate all actions to Bhagavan. In the beginning, to give up that thought that I am the doer is very difficult. So instead of giving up doership, give up action. Meaning, give up the egoistic thought process that I am doing it for myself. Say that I am doing but for Bhagavan. Then only the last stage will come where we say I am not even doing, Bhagavan is the doer. As of now we don't feel, because we feel I am doing. I only walked and I came here. I am only listening here. I will only go from here. I only am making the choices. So that is that's my experience right now, that I am doing all these. Fine. So if that feeling is there that I am doing, then let us do it with the bhavana that I am doing it for whom? Sanyasya adhyatma chetasa. Mai. That what is the meaning of that word Mai? Me, renounce all actions in me. Mai there means Ishvara, Bhagavan, not Krishna. But there are some people who will think it is Krishna Bhagavan. So they will say, renounce all action to Krishna only. Anyone else you renounce, you will go to hell. That thinking only will take you to hell. Forget it. Krishna is a symbol of Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, who is there all the time, as the form manifested and went. So to the Ishvara, when we dedicate all actions, remember he said Sarvani Karmani. He did not say some special actions only, like puja or japa or some upvas. No. If I am sleeping, my sleep can be dedicated to Bhagavan. That is easy. The easiest is dedicate sleep to Bhagavan. In the name of Bhagavan, go on sleeping. Why? I dedicate it to Bhagavan, sleep. If I dedicate it to Bhagavan, I will not sleep beyond a point, because it is not out of laziness that I sleep. It is that I need rest for the body so that I can serve the Lord well, so I sleep. If I eat the food, I dedicate it to Bhagavan, saying, Bhagavan, thank you for giving me this food. May this food nourish me so that I can serve you well. In each and every aspect. So the word here is used is Adhyatma Chetasa. The heart must be endowed with that sense of dedication. It is not one intellectual thought. It is not some mechanical prayer. Am Vajanara Bhutva Pranamya Masita Pranapanasamaita Pachamendam Chaturvidham Chalo attack. Some people do it like that. Have some gratitude in the heart. Really feel that, thank you Lord for giving me this. Manifesting as Anna in front of me. To nurture this body. So may this Anna not create excitement in the body, restlessness in the mind. May it nurture and nourish this health and give positive thoughts. So that feeling must come. In each and everything. If I am taking bath, I can chant Purusha Suktam, or I can chant Bhaj Govindam, or I can chant anything And the bhavna must be that Bhagavan is in my heart and this is Abhisheka that is happening on the Lord. So one doesn't require to do separate actions. If one doesn't have time, some people say that, in our busy life, how we don't have time to do special puja and this, that. Each and every action can be dedicated to Bhagavan. And he says here, Sarvani Karmani. You may start with a few specific actions and feel the joy. Like in the puja when I do, then I feel so much of happiness because of the sense of surrender. That is only a taste. What do we call it? Appetizer. Just initial. Once I taste that, wow, when surrender happens, mind is so peaceful, and there's so much of joy which is welling up from within. Can I not prolong this? Then in every action we will start doing that. Even normal walking, talking, meeting people, work, everything can be done with a spiritual heart. So spirituality is not limited to certain actions. It is the sense of dedication and surrender which comes about in every action as my way of life. So when so many people say, no, Hinduism is not a religion, it's a way of life. So if this is a way of life, then it is this. Actually that statement is a useless statement. Hinduism is not a religion, it's a way of life. So that means what? Other religions are religions but not a way of life. And this is a way of life but this is not a religion. Religion itself is the way of life. How to divinize all my actions through the day. So right from the time I wake up till the time I sleep, each and everything can be done. And why does he say Sarvani Karmani? Because whichever actions I do with surrender, they don't create the vasana pressure on my mind, they don't boost the ego, they help the person to become more and more empty. And one discovers that Atmarati and Atmatripti. So he says Sarvani Karmani Mai Sanyasya Adhyatma Chetasa. With that spiritual vision, you dedicate all actions to me. Then what to do? Nirashihi. Give up regret of anxiety for the future. So future has two aspects. One is called anxiety, other is called planning. So future is equal to anxiety plus planning. Give up the anxiety, continue to plan. Some people say, how can we give up anxiety? Then how will we work? Should we not even plan? No, planning you must do. Anxiety should be dropped. So how will I drop anxiety? With Shraddha. When surrender has happened, that's why that first line is important. When surrender has happened, then I know that whatever happens will happen for the good. I at my level must make the best choice. That's all I need to do. Most objective choice, sticking to my duty, selflessness, all that which we saw earlier. After that, don't have any anxiety. Even if something is not achieved, it will be for good only. Even if something is achieved, it will be for good only. That strength comes when surrender happens. He is there to take care. And at no point in time he abandons anyone. Whether I have not achieved something, whether I have achieved something, Bhagavan is always with me. And if Bhagavan is in my heart at all times, whatever has to happen, I will be able to face it. I will be able to deal with it. That inner strength and courage comes when there is Shraddha. And there is, in some aspects, knowledge also required. Because many times when we have anxiety, it is because I don't know. And when I don't know, mind always plays the trick. What if this happens? What if that happens? So then that mind becomes anxious. So some things I am able to know, but not everything I will know about future. So that's where knowledge and faith, they go together. And they are required to handle the anxiety of the future. Then, Nirmama. Give up the regret of the past. Swamiji, how can I give up that? Then I will keep making the mistakes of the past. No. So past is equal to regret plus lessons. If I have analyzed my experience of the past, learned my lesson, I can let go of the memory. That is very difficult because I love my past. I revel in my past. I derive all my identity from my past. If you actually think about it, what is the ego? Is a bundle of past memories. If you try to define the ego at this moment in the present without using any association with the past, try. It will not be possible only. Why? Because anything I say is about my past. So there is a functional past and there is a psychological past. Functional past is not an issue. Psychological past is the issue, which is the burden of memories, regrets. That should be dropped. No, but I have been a horrible person. What all I have done, I don't even deserve to be forgiven. In the Gita only Bhagavan will say that. You may be even the worst of the sinners, but if you are ready to let go and change, you are a good person. Don't condemn yourself. So how do I let go of the regret of the past? Accept that yes, I made a mistake. I learned from it and let go of the memory. What happens to us is the exact opposite. We are not able to learn from the past, and so the memory and that incident keeps haunting. And that is no way to live intelligently, because that is not going to make me avoid mistakes. It will make me do more mistakes. Because I didn't learn my lessons. And people have one nice dialogue they keep saying. Till you don't learn that lesson, life will repeatedly bring that experience. So if we know that, why not learn the lesson and just drop it? Why do you want repeat performance again and again? It is not that life is going to bring that again and again because I have not learned the lesson. I am attracting it. Life is not some cruel master ki तुमने नहीं सीखा मार, नहीं सीखा एक और मार. It is not like that. Because I am wallowing in that again and again and again, I am only attracting it. If I learn from the past and let go, it is gone, it's over, finished. Even most hurtful memories can be dropped. When I have learned from it and resolved it and say, fine, over, I let go. Unfortunately, we are not taught that art of letting go. In India, that art of letting go was discovered. And through meditation, we can even let go of the deepest attachment, which is attachment to ahankar and ego. And we taught the world what is meditation. But we ourselves today don't know what to let go and how to let go and when to let go. Including our Indian cricket team doesn't know. Look at that debacle happening in South Africa. It's all because those guys don't know how to let go. Outside the off-stump, ball is going and let go. Poke the bat. Far away it is going, somewhere it is going, but then poke the bat. It's not even coming close that you can't avoid it. It is going somewhere, quietly let it go. 2 one-day matches, what a disaster. Baap re baap. Third match we don't know only whether we will even cross 100. Why? Letting go only one doesn't know. So past one has to let go. Learn the lessons and drop it, and one of the biggest means to do that is forgiveness. Why do I fear making mistakes? So what if I made a mistake? It's not to justify a mistake, but I am a human. I will make mistakes. And because of what I have done in the past, I am what I am today. If I would have not done that, I would have been someone else only. So I can't change who I am today. If I have to accept myself as I am today, I have to accept myself with my past, full as it is. Including whatever mistakes have been done, wrong has been done, foolishness has been done. And how will I do that? Accept, yes, I did it. I was not aware. Now I have become more aware. Let me learn from it. And the moment I learn consciously, and consciously I let go. In psychology, they will do so many things to let go, help us let go. You write on the paper and crumple it and throw it and burn it, and what all happens. In every culture you will have. In our culture, it is go to Gangaji, take a dip and let go. Not that I have become fresh now, again new things I will do. But let go, it's over, gone. You are a new person, fresh person, it's gone, finished. Don't drag. So regret, drop. Anxiety drop. And in the present, tension. So present is equal to tension plus attention. Drop the tension by focusing more, by giving more attention to what the action is. Focusing in the present now, enjoying that very act, being more alert and aware in the action itself. And all these three can very easily happen when there is dedication and surrender. One key to that is that much only. So future can go with the faith that I can handle when Lord is with me. Past regret can go with that resolution in my mind when I have resolved the past, saying, so what if it has happened? Gurudev used to give us these three very nice sentences. Each one is two words only. One is so what? Second is never mind. Third is bounce back. And he would always say that the glory of life is never in not falling, but it is in rising higher each time you fall. How will you do that? When you bounce? Bounce back. So what if I fall? Everybody falls. Arjuna has fallen. Bhagavan is helping him out. So regret goes with this. Anxiety goes when I have Shraddha, when I have faith that the Lord is with me, I can handle. And tension in the present goes by bringing the mind where the hands are. Just pay attention, here and now. So the two words for that are three words, here and now. If the mind goes back into past or future, bring it back, say here and now. In Hindi we have this word, What do you call, what is the word for past? One is both. Any other word? Colloquial word is kal. And what is the word for tomorrow? Kal. So it says kal kare so pagal. If you live in the regret of the past or anxiety for the future, kal, that is pagal only. Live in the now, present here. So tomorrow we will conclude this third chapter, where the last part of third chapter, Bhagavan answers a very pertinent question of Arjuna. He says that in spite of knowing what is wrong, why does man commit sin? Very beautiful answer he gives. Why do we commit sin? In spite of knowing that this is wrong, very clear in the thinking, still we'll end up doing that. That we'll see tomorrow. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah.